Okay, we're going to get started and working in Inventor, so go ahead and click on Inventor and open it up. When it comes up, you should get this option here to on your home page to click New. And we're going to just start today. First thing we're going to do is change our projects. We want to create a project and call it your name folder. So you got a name folder on your desktop somewhere, or maybe somewhere create some name folder. So by doing that, you're just going to click on, let's click New and Single User Project. Click Next. And then click and put in your name. So I'm going to put in my name. Alright. Oops. Alright, so I'll put in that. I'm going to add a 1 because I've got one already created. So this creates a new one. We can go ahead and finish that. And should it be created? Yes. And then you want to put it, click on it so the check mark comes up next to it if it doesn't do it automatically. So save it. And that's fine. So now we should be able to, that's set to the project name we are at, and we're done. So when we come back here, let's see, it should come up. There should be a Davidson 1, or your name should be there somewhere. Hold on, let me try something here. We're going to cancel, click New. So that seemed to work this time. I don't know why it didn't just pop up, but cancel and click New and comes back up and make sure your name is there. If not, find it in there and go from there. Alright, so now, you always want to do that because when you're saving things in projects and the way they are working, you want to, these things work all together. It's parametric, and so they work together. And if they don't work together, they're not in the same project file. So whenever you create a new project, let's say you're building an assembly of a, a 1969 Pontiac GTO, create your one that says, Pontiac GTO, and then put all the GTO parts in that folder, and that way it all stays together as an assembly. Alright, but we're going to start today just by making some simple stuff, just to get you used to things. So, click on English, and this is how this works. So we're going to see here that this is a part, and this is where we'll create part files. We're not going to worry about sheet metal yet, but we will work on standard inch, and the IPT is the file extension there. Alright, when we get to working on assemblies, we're going to probably use the standard inch IAM. That's where you put assemblies together. We'll cover that later, and you're going to end up using the ANSI inch IDW when you create parts that are made in inches in English. Metric, you'd go over here. We're going to probably skip the sheet metal ones now. We're just going to do standard IPT. When we do assemblies, we're going to just probably do standard IAMs. And when we get down here to creating parts, we're just going to do ANSI IDWs. We're not going to worry too much about presentation files, at least not this year, maybe later on. So let's go back to English. Click on standard inch IPT, and then click Create. Alright, so this pops up right here. This is where all your ribbons are up here. This is your browser bar, or just the browser. If it ever disappears, like if you end up with it gone like that, you go up to View, go across here to User Interface, click on User Interface and check Browser, and it pops right up. You need to have that there. It's actually really important to have it. So let's click the plus sign next to that. You see the different planes are in here, that sort of thing. But let's go back to 3D model. We're going to click on 2D sketch and start a 2D sketch. And you'll see here when I highlight over these, if I'm on the XY plane, it gets highlighted over here. If I'm on the YZ plane, it gets highlighted. But the different planes are over here, and as you highlight them over here in the browser bar, you'll also see that they get highlighted over in our drawing area over here. This is the view cube. This is a navigation toolbar. And you'll see that there's different axes that you can use here too. We're not going to worry about them right now. We'll use them later, but they are right in here, right through the center. So right in the middle there is your origin point. Okay, so let's pick one here, XY plane. We'll click on the XY plane. Notice the view cube switches to front and comes right at us. We're going to start by doing things. Now, things we need to remember, right, when we do these things. First thing you want to do is you want to sketch. Sketch first before you do anything. Then we're going to use constraints, and we're going to use these constraints right in here. I'll let you hover over top of each one of these to figure out what they are. So we have coincident constraint. We're going to use the horizontal constraint, the vertical constraint today. We may or may not use perpendicular and parallel. I think we're going to be okay. We'll probably use the equals constraint also. All right. The rest of them will work out later, but you definitely need to know how to do that. So you're going to sketch, then you're going to constrain, then you'll go back in and dimension later. This is just good practice. So let's go up here to click rectangle. We're going to click rectangle and kind of draw one in here. So I'm just going to left click with the mouse one time and just kind of move it out there. I'm not holding it down. I'm going to left click on the other side to create this box here. These little symbols that are right in here, these are constraint symbols. So it's saying that these are already drawn so that these two lines over here are parallel with one another. These two lines are parallel. This one has a horizontal constraint to it. There's a perpendicular constraint on this corner right here, and since those things right there set that all up, so that ends up being 90-degree angles all the way around with all of those things. But what I want to do is down in the bottom right hand corner, you usually see something down here that tells you how many more things you have to dimension to be able to make this part fully constrained. And when they're green, they're not fully constrained. So I'm going to do a horizontal constraint and pick the midpoint of that line right there. That little green ball pops up, or dot pops up, and I want to constrain that to the origin point. Right? So now you'll see it turn kind of yellow there. I'll do a vertical constraint and say that I want to vertically constrain this midpoint to the origin point, and it pops that in there. Now that I have this constrained to the origin point and this midpoint constrained to the origin point, I want to put some dimensions on it. So down here it tells me that I have two dimensions that I need to do. So I'm going to put a dimension on here and put this one out here. So I clicked right on the line, click dimension, click right on the line, drag this out here and pop it in place right there. Now it says it's 0.93, but I want it to be like 4 inches. So I'm going to click right on it and put 4 inches in there and then type in enter and hit enter. It disappears, so I got to double click the mouse wheel to zoom the extents, and you'll notice that those lines have turned blue. All right, they're blue because they're fully constrained. Now the other thing I could do then is I could come up here and I want to dimension this line to this line, and I could click on a dimension and see it's already highlighted. I could dimension from that line to that line, or I can just click this line right here directly and put it in place. Now it's fully constrained, but I want it to be a cube. Now there's a couple things I can do. One, I could come in here and I could type it and put in 4 inches. Put it in there and it'd be exactly 4 inches, right? And it'll be right every single time. But I could also, let me undo one back. I could also click on this, double click on it. It's going to pop up and say that that's 4.0 whatever it is, right? But I could come down here and click on this dimension, and it's going to say that this dimension right here, whatever D0 is what it's labeled as, is always going to be equal to that. So you'll see when I do this that now this dimension is 4. So that says there's a function there, and that it's telling us that that function is going to be equal to that number right there. Now watch this. This is going to be really cool. I'll double click on this one. I'm going to change it to 5, and that one automatically changes to 5. And that's a really cool feature. The other thing you could do, what we could have done is I'll right click on this to delete it. What I can do here is say I want to use the equals constraint and say that this line here is always equal to that line, and they're always the same. So now it's going to be a square no matter what. If I come back in here and hit escape, double click on this one, change it back to 4, it's a square. All right. So I don't really want it to be that. I'm going to go ahead and make it 5 inches. So I'll make it 5 inches square, and then I'm going to finish that sketch. Once we finish the sketch, I'll double click the mouse wheel. We're ready to extrude it. So we'll go ahead and click on extrude, and going to extrude it. You can extrude it in a couple different directions. I can extrude it this direction coming towards me. I can turn it so it goes back the other direction. If I want to do it in 2 separate directions here, I can do this way. So there it's trying to do 1 inch in 2 different directions. So it's bringing a 1/2 inch this way and a 1/2 inch that way. I can also do different distances depending on what I'm doing. Like right now it's trying to draw 1 inch coming this way and a 1/2 inch going back that way. That's one of the things. But I'm good enough with it just being 1 inch that way. Actually, we're going to go ahead and make it 5 inches. So I'll put in 5. You can also put in 5 right down here. And then I'm going to check that, double click the mouse wheel to zoom the extents. Okay, next, what we're going to do is we're going to right click on this face right here. This is easier than in AutoCAD where you have to change your UCS. You're just going to right click on this face, click new sketch. Go ahead and draw a circle somewhere. I'm going to draw a circle right about here. It doesn't matter. What I want to do is I want to do a coincident constraint. Click there. click the center point and put it on the origin. So that puts it right in the middle of this whole part. Okay, then what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and put a diameter on this hole, and we're going to see here that it says 2-inch diameter, or it's just over 2 inches. I'm going to go ahead and make it exactly 2 inches. And then going to, when I'm done this, it's fully constrained. I'm going to finish the sketch, and then we're going to extrude it through there. So when we click extrude, see, it tries to push this out here, and we could make this longer if we wanted to. We could make it 10, and it would 10 inches, and it would look like, you know, something like Thor's hammer or something like that. Who knows what you're talking about? But we don't want to do that. We want to go through the other direction, and because this is a parametric program, we don't want to give it a distance of 10 or 2, because we would do something like 2. You see, it would only go part of the way through, and that would create some kind of counterbore or something like that. We want it to go change the distance here, or change the extents to all, so it always goes through this part no matter how long it is. So then we'll click OK, and that's finished. Alright, without changing the UCS, because we don't need to, it's not AutoCAD. We'll right click on this face, click New Sketch, and this one's a little different. It didn't put we don't have the center point this time, so we'll click on Circle and put a circle somewhere in here. Alright, we'll use the horizontal constraint right here and go from this center point here and make that horizontal to the origin, and we're going to do a vertical constraint, and we're going to do this center point here to the midpoint of that line. So just kind of hover over there. It's actually finding the center of the circle that we put through before, but it's lining them both up. Then we'll put a dimension on here through this, and mine's 2.3. Yours might be something different, but we're just going to change it to 2. And then when you're done that, you finish the sketch. Click on Extrude. We're going to change the select. That is, you have to come down here and select this profile. We'll select that profile there. Change this to Cut. Change this to All. And then it goes through everything and clicks OK. Alright, so that has 2 holes going all the way through it, you know. Alright, so now we'll click on I was rotating this using the view cube. To rotate, you have to hold down the left mouse key or mouse button and just kind of spin it around the way you want it to. If you get lost, you can always click on Home again, and it goes right back to where it should be. Alright, so we're going to start a new sketch right here. Right click on this one, click New Sketch. Alright, I'm going to hold down my mouse wheel and to pan and put this back to the center. Then I'll click Circle again, and I'm going to put this somewhere, and I could probably get really fancy and see where those two come together and put that right in here like this, so we know it's right on the center, that center point. And see, it's even constrained because the center point's blue, even though there's a yellow tick mark there. Put a diameter on it, and we'll make this one 2 also. Oops, 2 also. Alright, finish the sketch. We extrude this time. We're going to extrude it the other direction, so it's going to cut in, and we could set it so it goes through all, but we don't. Let's try 2 next this time. So this makes it go through to those holes right there, and it won't go when I'll click that, so it finishes the sketch. We've got a hole right here that goes into those 2 holes right there, but doesn't go through to the bottom. Now what's really cool is when you look in there, you see the different shapes that it makes. Alright, so now we've got a finished part. Go ahead and click Save, and we're going to save this part as let's just call it 5x5 cube right now, because that's all of what we're doing. So it should be in your name folder, and we'll call it 5x5 cube, and then click Save. Now that you've done this, we'll move on to the next step. Okay, you can go up to New, click on New. It'll pull up your creation file, window, and then you're going to go ahead and click on ANSI Inch IDW, since we started this part in inches. And then you'll see it gives you a title block. So we'll click Create. It might take a second or two as it loads everything up. But when it comes up, it will have everything in it, including the title block down here, and it should have your name, or the way you logged onto the computer, at least down in this part. We can figure out how to change that later. Alright, but what we'll do first is we're going to go ahead and click Base, because we're going to get a base view and see what comes in, and that looks like a good view to be able to put in here, so I'm going to put that one because that shows us all the way through. I'll put this one in right here, and then I'll move to the right, and I'm going to left click right there. I'll move, so that gives me my right side view. I'm going to go up. I'll put in a top view right here, and just for fun, I'll put in an isometric view up here in the right hand corner. Now that's awfully big, but we'll figure that out here in a second. So I'm going to left click that right there. Now once I'm done, I've figured out where I want the views to be, I'm going to go ahead and right click with the mouse and click Create. So now I've got the drawing with hidden lines on it already. this view is way too big, so we're going to look at this. When you come over here, each view you go over, you see that it puts a little red dotted line on it. So if we come up to this red dotted line on this view, double click on it, this drawing view window pops back up, and we're going to change the scale of it to something a lot smaller. So let's try maybe half scale and see what happens. So we'll click that, click OK. That makes it a manageable size, and I'm just going to move it up out of the way. Now we need to worry about dimensions and where dimensions are going to go and how much space we have here on our drawing. So I'm going to just grab this and move it down, and you notice it moves them all together parametrically, orthographically. So we want them to always be orthographically lined up. Now, when you're going to put dimensions in, we're going to switch over here and go to the Annotate tab. Right, you got all these options of different ways to dimension and do different things. But this part right here is where you have center lines and do different things. And this one is where you have the center marks. So we're going to use a center mark to put in the center of this circle here and the center of that circle there. And we can put one right here also. So that tells us when we're going to drill those, we're drilling them straight through that right there. Okay. We're also going to go ahead and do this. This is the center line bisector. And when you click this, you can click on this hidden line and this hidden line, and it'll extend those beyond. So we know that this hole right here goes all the way through. And we can do the same with this part right here. And we're putting in where the center lines are. So it shows that all of these circles converge on the same point. And we'll click on all of those. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to actually start worrying about dimensioning and how we're going to put these things in here. Now we're tight on space, so we've got to be really careful of how we do this. So let's talk about some of these things. Every feature needs to be accounted for. So I'm going to look at this circle right here going through there. I'm going to start off by doing a dimension that goes from this line to this circle, and I'll put it right out here. Now those dotted lines are kind of default snap settings. If you put them there, that should be okay. That's the default when a dimension comes up. So if you need to remember that later, that those brackets are the default. So if it disappears, you put those back in. You can hide that value, but we're not going to hide that value right now. We're going to let it ride. All right. So there we go. We got a 2.5 in right there. So we'll also go up here and put a dimension on this view right here. We'll put that one in place right there. Now that we've done that, we'll go up here and we're going to go ahead and think about what we're going to do on this part. Now this could be really interesting because we could take this and do a dimension from here to here. So that tells us that those center lines are already on there now. That's in place. Let's go ahead and grab this one and drag it down a little bit more. So I'm going to hit escape on the keyboard to get us out of the dimension. I'll move this down here a little bit because this now lines these up. And we don't have to worry about over dimensioning that at all. It's 2.5 is there. So we can go ahead and add another dimension that tells us the overall. So I'm going to click dimension, click right on that line, and just drag that one out here a little bit and give it enough spacing so they don't overlap and cause problems. I'll do the same thing on this line, drag this one out here, and I'm lining them all up like this so they look neat. We always want everything to look neat. It looks like I forgot to do the center line bisector over here, so I'll go ahead and do that right now. Let's see if that works. So we got that worked out. We'll go ahead and do a dimension through that center hole. We want to know where the center of this hole is too. So this should have a hole or a dimension that goes from here to the end. And even though it's over here already, we'll go ahead and put one here and here. Because this is specific to this hole, so we're not over dimensioning it at all. We don't need to put an overall because they're covered there and there. But what we don't have, we've got a height and we've got a width, so that's already there. So we're good. Yeah, we should be good there, like that. All right. The only other thing now is we need to go in here and we've got dimensions set. So we'll go ahead and click on this. And this tells us how big that hole is going through there. And it says it's a 2 diameter hole. So once this pops up, I just you left click in this area here. I'm going to hit the space bar on the keyboard. And I'm going to type, or even, I could even return down and just type 3 places. That way we know. Whoops. Type, return down and type 3 places. And I want all caps, so I'm going to backspace and turn on all caps because that's good practice for making drawings. 3 places, and click OK. So now we know that that goes in 3 places. Alright, this is just a basic drawing, how to get drawings started, and you're going to do those kinds of things, and that's how you're going to dimension, and we're dimension the same way we've been doing all year long. What you want to do next is kind of fill in your title block, and to fill in your title block, we're going to use our schools as our company name. So you're going to go up to the application menu and come down to pull down, go to iProperties, and we'll go to iProperties, and that's the name of our part. So we'll come in here and change the title of this is the title of it is going to be the part name. We'll just call it a 5 by 5 cube. We can leave the author should be your name. If it says something other than that, put your first initial and last name there. The company, we'll go ahead and call it by our high school name. Oops, I'm going to learn how to spell it. And then we'll go back over here to the project, and we're going to add a part number to it, and we can call it whatever we want. So this part we'll just call it, let's see, 001-01-001, and that's simple enough. And we should be good there. Go ahead and click apply and close, and you'll see that it fills all this information in here. So you've got a drawing number that's equivalent to your part number. You've got a title, you got the company name here, who you are, and the date that you created this. This is where you double click the mouse wheel. We'll go up here, and instead in AutoCAD we use the print command to create PDFs, but in this case we're going to come down here, we're going to go to export the PDF file, and you're going to create the PDF file of your whatever it is you want to call it. You can call it the 5 by 5 cube, or you can call it 001-01001 if you want to, and save that as the PDF. So it'll create the PDF file. You should see something pop up like this on your screen that is that, and that's what you want to submit. So you're going to submit the PDF file when you're done. With every drawing that you do, submit in a PDF file. All right. If you need to go back, watch the video again, by all means, do what you need to. Pause it, do everything you need to do, but when you're done, after you submitted it, you're ready to move on to the next drawing.